Hello, everybody, coming to look, coming to listen, and welcome to another episode of Wilds Talk. Except, that's not the name of this series. I still haven't come up with a name. Please feel free to put one in the comments. I have not thought of one. I probably won't think of one. And also, we're not talking about Monster Hunter Wilds today. Today, we're actually going to be talking about Monster Hunter Stories 3 and my list for the 15 monsters that I would most like to see in the game. Now, quick disclaimer. I do not have a very big channel. I have not received a review copy of the game. I did not know what monsters were already announced, and I hadn't planned on looking into it much because for this kind of creature collecting game, I thought, I don't want to be spending half the game looking forward to the later game monsters that I know are coming. I want to enjoy them as they're presented. But then I also thought how anticlimactic it would be to make a list like this and it be 15 monsters that have already been shown in announcement trailers. So I did look and at a list of monsters that have been revealed through announcement trailers or promotional material or in the demo, even though I haven't played the demo myself, and taken the monsters that I would have picked off of that list. I say this because there may be a monster or two on this list that has been shown or revealed or was in some kind of development interview. I didn't know about it. It's still on the list. So be it. So, getting started, number 15 of the monster that I would most like to see, or Monstie specifically, in Monster Hunter Stories 3 is any monster from Frontier. Now, I say this because one of the things that I find most interesting about Monster Hunter is the variety of monsters, especially as someone who really got started in World. It didn't have a whole lot of variety in the monster types, and a lot of them were pretty subdued, pretty normal, if that can apply to monsters. And I've really enjoyed the aspects of the series showcasing the more out there monsters and designs and types that I've experienced since. So one thing that would make me excited about seeing really any Frontier monster in the game is just the possibilities that would open up for seeing more out there designs, not only in Stories 3 later on, but also in the mainline Monster Hunter series. Because, yes, we did get Espinas and Flaming Espinas in Sunbreak, but he's kind of the biggest, I guess, most famous, flagshipiest monster of Frontier. Him coming was neat, but it doesn't necessarily mean we'd get more. And I'd like more, and if we saw a Frontier monster dropped into Stories 3, I just think that would be cool for the possibilities that opens up going forward. Number 14. This is going to be a pretty quick one. It's Radobaan. Now, there's something about Radobaan. I can't really describe it. I just always thought he was pretty cool. I never liked Uragaan. In truth, I don't really care for most of the Brute Wyverns, but Radobaan I always really liked. I liked his look. I liked his ecology, the fact that he's covered in this tar and he rolls around everywhere, and so he's just got all these bones sticking on him. I love breaking monster parts. I love fighting him. Same reason I love fighting Raknikadaki. I love breaking parts on monsters. His armor looks cool. I like Radobaan, and I just think it'd be neat if he was in the game. Now, for number 13, this is going to kind of start a trend. First, I'm going to say the monster. It's Celtis Queen. And that trend is, I was originally going to make this a top 10 list instead of a top 15. But that 10 was mainly going to be categories of monsters rather than individual monsters, and I just felt like it was going to be kind of clanky. I don't know. I didn't like it. So I went with 15, but this is going to start a trend of this would just be nice for variety kind of monster. Now, what I've played of Stories 2 and full disclosure, I've actually not finished Stories 2 yet. I need to get on that. But so many of the opening monsters are bird wyverns and flying wyverns, and I would like a little more variety in the low-level, earlier monsters that you're going to get. And one of the reasons I really like Celtis Queen is just because it's so much different than so many of the other monsters. not really much more to it than that. I think Celtus Queen is neat, and I think a kinship attack where it summons a Celtus and throws it at the enemy monster would just be cool and funny. So, Celtus Queen. Now for number 12, very similar to Celtus Queen, is Najarala. Now the thing with Najarala is, similar to Celtus Queen, it has a unique design. It's the only snake wyvern in the game, in any of the mainline games, not counting, I guess, Dalamadur and Shah Dalamadur. But I think it would be really cool for mixing up the monster types that we're going to get in the game. And really, I would have chosen Title Najarala just because I think it looks a little bit cooler. But considering you can mix and match elements, which is about the only thing I know about the game so far, there's really no need. You could always just make a water element Najarala, or I guess Title Najarala's ice element. No, I think it's water. Anyway, Najarala. Variety. Neat. Number 11 would actually be Malfezio, which is almost in the same category of isn't it just a cool monster? But I think Malfezio is, well, I'm a little worried Malfezio is becoming one of those forgotten monsters. It is so unique out of the monsters. It has interesting statuses. I would love to see it in the Master Rank expansion of Wilds, and I just don't believe that we would. I'm not sure how much that would fit with the aesthetic style that Wild seems to be going for with its monster choices. And I have Malfezio at 11 just because I like Malfezio and I'd like to see it again, and this might be my only chance in the near future. So here we go. Number 10. You could almost say we're getting to the real list now. I hate to say that because I really couldn't take so many of those other monsters off the list. I just really like them. And I like so many more that were taken off the list and so many more that were taken off because they'd already been announced, even though I probably looking forward to them. Well, not probably. Way more. Would probably enjoy talking about them more. But going to number 10 is Cumatrice. Cumatrice, I feel like, is destined to be one of those forgotten monsters. It doesn't have a very unique design. It's just a fire chicken. It doesn't have a very engaging fight. It's not very strong. It moves in a way more mechanical, old school monster kind of way compared to other monsters in Wilds. And I would not be surprised if 2 or 3 or 4 games from now, we're in 7th, 8th generation and someone goes, hey, remember Cumatrice? We haven't seen him in a while. But here's the thing. I think this would be a good opportunity for a redemption for Cumatrice. One, its armor and weapons look great. It has some of the coolest and most interesting armor and weapons in the game, in my opinion. And it has some personality. The cutscene with it chasing the palicos who were carrying the meat is one of the few actual bits of comedy that was in Wilds. I really miss when Monster Hunter was a little funnier, a little sillier. I would love to have some of that back, and that scene did make me laugh. I would very much support Cumatrice in Stories 3, where he gets a little more personality, do a couple of cool things with his element swap designs, and maybe keep him from fading into obscurity. I think he could do better. Deserves better? Can be better. I think we can all like Cumatrice a little bit better if he got a little love in Stories 3. Otherwise, who knows when we'll see him again. Now, for number 9, my number 9 pick is Tsitsi Yaku. And I said we were done with the just because it's cool monsters, but we actually weren't because it's on this list just because I think it's cool. I don't really count Kuliaku as my first bird wyvern. I don't really count Great Jaggy because I hunted it 3 or 4 times in training missions in 4 Ultimate before starting World and not touching 4 Ultimate for years and years and years. Tsitsi Yaku was my first bird wyvern raptor. And looking at the older raptors, the Velocidromes and the Eodromes, Tsitsi Yaku, I know he's not really respected, but he does have a really neat look. I like his Jurassic Park raptor look versus the big bird look. His mechanic of flashing you is neat, it's interesting, and his armor looks cool. I like Tsitsi Yaku. I've always liked Tsitsi Yaku. I would just take him over a Kuliaku or a Velocidrome or a Geodrome if we had the choice. So I'd like Tsutsuyaku to be in the game. Now, number eight. Number eight, I almost had to stop myself from making like number two because I want to defend this monster so much. I like this monster, I just don't like it as much as the other ideas. But in terms of passion, I would want this monster to be number one or number two on this list. But my number eight is Great Gyros. Now, I've always liked Great Gyros. I definitely think that I have an affinity for the weaker, lower tier monsters. I'm going to fight them more often. I'm going to enjoy the fights with them a little bit more. I really like lower tier monsters, and one of the reasons I like Sunbreak so much was the fact that its special investigation system kept lower tier monsters relevant for so long. But it wasn't until the recent global community poll of favorite monsters and the subsequent talks surrounding it that I found out people really, really didn't like Great Gyros. And now I have tricked you all into actually watching my secret Great Gyros defense video because I really like this monster. One, cool concept. It's a snake cobra, but with legs. It looks cool. Yellow and black color scheme, it looks cool. It has an awesome armor set. Its Master Rank armor set is probably my favorite armor set in all of World and Iceborne. And I really enjoy its fight. In fact, it's my favorite, what I would call training dummy fight. Training dummy monster. When I wanted to try out a new fighting style or try out some risky moves, let's say longsword counter or just a new weapon, I would go fight Great Gyros. Reason why? It's not very tough, it's not very hard, but it is just tough enough that it gives you something to think about. Between the effluvium constantly doing damage to you, having a bunch of tiny Gyroses attacking at the same time, and its paralysis leaving you open for some pretty big hits, which you can't really afford to take early on in the game, Great Gyros does just enough that it makes the fight just engaging enough that I feel like it's a very good training fight. As a result, I end up fighting it a lot. I ended up liking it a lot. I will not hear this talk about how Great Azuchi was the first large monster to finally fight with its pack, because no, Great Gyros was the first large monster to actually fight with its pack. I don't know if it's the small space, the large number of Gyroses around it, or the effluvium making them all extra aggressive, but Great Gyros felt like, or Gyros, I'm going to keep saying Gyros, felt like you're fighting it and its smaller pack mates. And I think it's cool. I think the Rotten Veil's cool. I think its armor set's cool. I love Great Gyros. I would love to see Great Gyros in the game. I will hear no Great Gyros slander. Now, because I did not mean to actually go on that long, and I kind of feel like I should speed this up just a little bit, my number 7 is Plum Daimyo Hermitar. Now, personally, just like with the Brute Wyverns, I don't particularly care for a lot of monster variants and subspecies. I know, that might be the second hottest take of this video. So many, especially of the older monsters, the subspecies is, let's change its color, make it hit harder, move faster, and do its most annoying tack more often. And I definitely think the way we've seen so many 5th and 6th gen monsters adopt parts of the movesets of some of its variants, like Rathalos in Sunbreak getting aspects of Dread King Rathalos' moveset. Or I think I actually can't think of another example at the top of my head. I might really want to consider using scripts in the future. But anyway, so many variants to me just aren't all that exciting. But I do like, well, caveat, modern, more recent variants, they have done a lot more with, made a lot more interesting. So it's definitely a trend I see with the older monsters. I mean, could anybody but the most hardcore fans really tell you the difference between Rathalos and Azura Rathalos and Silver Rathalos? There's a difference, but really, couldn't they all be the moveset of just one Rathalos? Make it fly more, make it hit harder, change its hit zones. But anyway, I like Plum Daimyo Hermitar for a couple of reasons. One, looks cool. Don't know if you've noticed the trend here. It looks cool. I like its striking dark colors. And I really like the Diablo's head. I don't know if it's because I'm so used to seeing Daimyo Hermitar. I don't know if it's because I've fought Plum Daimyo Hermitar recently for the first time in 4 Ultimate. I don't know if it's because I've just seen the Monoblo skull so much, but the Diablo skull, I think it looks really cool. If I had to choose between one of the two being in Stories 3, I think I'd play Plum Daimyo Hermitar. The same way I've heard a lot of voices say that they miss Monoblos and they almost wish that Monoblos and Diablos would trade off games so that one would be in one game and then one would be the other. I would be fine with getting Plum Daimyo Hermitar and not Hermitar just because I'd love to see it in the new gen. Now for my number 6 pick, another variant actually. Well, I guess subspecies. I can never actually remember the exact difference between each, but is Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. Now, normally, I think that some of the color swaps in monsters can take away from some of their identity or some of what made me like them in the first place. Looking at you, Brute Tigrex versus regular Tigrex, who's more colorful and I just like more. But I think Tiger Strike Xantrios actually looks really cool and it really fitting for its desert fight. I like that it at least seems to me to be consistently significantly larger than regular Zamtrios. But also the fact that when it inflates, it's at its most dangerous versus regular Zamtrios, where when it inflates, you're like, oh, free damage, this fight's about to be over. I could just imagine a cool yet silly Tiger Stripe Zamtrios in Stories 3 where it's constantly doing roly-poly moves, constantly bouncing for its attacks. I just think that would be very funny and would fit well with the game. And I like Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. I would rather see regular Zamtrios in a mainline game or a actual hunting game, but I think I'd much rather see Tiger Stripe Zamtrios in Stories 3. Now, for my number 5, and again, rule of cool, I did not think this through, did not realize how many of these choices were just, I like this monster, it looks cool, but is Zuwu from Wilds. And do I really need to explain why? It's an assassin octopus, it looks cool, its weapons look amazingly cool, I would love to see them in the game. I want to see more Zuwu, I want to see more cephalopods, monsters, it looks really cool and I like it. Don't need to say much more than that. Now, for my number 4, I like this monster so much, it was almost at number 3. It was at number 3 for a while, but number 4, right behind Zuwu, for the exact same reasons, is New Udra. But New Udra has the added effect of, I can imagine them doing some really interesting things with its element swap in Stories 3 instead of the fire. I don't know what they would do. I don't know what it would look like. I don't even know the full extent of how element swapping changes how your monster look, but I know it does. But New Udra, it's one of my new favorite monsters. It's an amazing fight. I love it. I love a difficult fight that can still be really fun, and that's, arch-tempered Zuwu. So yeah, I spent so much time talking about Great Gyros, I'm just going to leave it at that. And now for my number 3 monster, and this would probably be the one that I would be the most excited for and the most pleased to actually see happen. But my number 3 monster that I would most like to see in Stories 3 is Adolka. And doesn't that just seem perfect? Adolka is the perfect size, not too big, it's a regular size monster. You have its mech, Adolnesto, that it can summon for the kinship attack. Its regular attacks can be throwing out some silk string and then just hurling a Dragonator at the enemy monster. It's perfect. It's right there. I would love to see it. It'd be a great surprise. I don't know if we're going to see Adolka in a future mainline Monster Hunter game, so it would be great to see it in this, but also it would just be great to see it in this. It would be one of my favorite monsters. It would be in my roster all the time. Adolka would just be really cool. It's right there. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. Now, my number 2 choice, as I see my chance at making this an under 20-minute video slowly slipping away, is a new monster. New monster. Any new monster. Now think about this. Monster Hunter has never been more popular than it is right now. It's never been more mainstream than it is right now. There's so much going on with the series, with new releases coming out, and with as popular as it is, I do believe that a lot of people who are playing Stories are going to be playing Outlanders, maybe playing Wilds and the Wilds expansion, but also play the inevitable handheld future 6th gen game. What genius marketing would it be? How much fun would it be if in the middle of playing Stories 3, they just dropped an entirely new monster? A monster we've never seen before, a monster that's going to be in the Wilds Master Rank, but it was just previewed maybe in the first title update for Stories, maybe near the end of the game, maybe out of nowhere, but just in time to be a little before the Wilds Master Rank announcement. Just an entirely new monster. I think that would be very fun. I think that would be really cool. And yeah, I love being surprised. I would love some kind of pleasant surprise like that. It would be neat. And now, my number one monster, even though I already said Adoka would probably be my most excited if it actually happened, my number one monster that I would love to see in the game, and now that I think about it, I only didn't switch it with Adoka because it seems so unlikely, and Adoka seems so very likely. It seems like the most likely out of all the monsters that I really want to see actually showing up. But ignoring all of that, my number one pick is oversized siege monsters. Now, hear me out. We already get these monsters when they're eggs. We already are hatching them when they're babies. How cool would it be if we hatched an oversized siege monster, but as a baby, and then we got to ride around with it? Can you imagine just riding on the shoulders of like a Lao Shen Lung that's just 4 times your size, or maybe the size of a Duramboros, but still not oversized because it's a baby? That would be really fun. Or a Kul Taroth that just doesn't have all of the gold on them and whose horns aren't quite so overgrown. Or a Zora Magdaros where you can actually see what it looks like because it doesn't have all of the... I don't even know what's draped all over Zora Magdaros, but I know it's so much that you can basically not really make out what it looks like. But I would say a younger, more cleaned up, less old man monster looking version of Zora Magdaros would be really cool. Or not Lao Shenlong, Shengarin. A Shengarin, but it's much smaller and it's in the skull of a Legiacrix. That would just be fun. That would be fun and interesting and wacky and very stories-like. Even if they didn't really want to break the lore, because I'm sure baby Lao Shen Lungs have been stated somewhere in a book that they're the size of mountains. But what about a baby Eucanlos or a baby Acantor that's just normal monster sized? Or even, like I said, Kul Taroth or an Akarkos. They're not so big that their baby versions couldn't be normal monster sized. I think that'd be really neat. And while extremely unlikely, would be my number one pick for the monster I would most like to see. Number 3, Adoka, because it seems the most likely, or I'll say possible, not likely. But if anything could happen, then yeah, seeing tiny, monsty-sized siege monsters would definitely be my number 1. So that is my list for the top 15 monsters that I would most like to see as monsties, specifically monsties, not just monsters, not just enemies, in Monster Hunter Stories 3. And thank you everyone for listening to me nerd out about Monster Hunter, which I really enjoy. And please, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help me get just enough subscribers that maybe one day I do get a review copy, which is just my whole dream as a YouTuber. I don't need a plaque. I don't need 1 million subscribers. I just want free stuff. I just want to get free nerd stuff. I want a promo code for an outfit. That's all. That's all I want. Just enough support and people who like my videos that I get 1 cosmetic pack for free. I'll feel like I made it. I'll feel like I've succeeded and made all my dreams come true. So thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you all next time.